Hi, I'm Greg Schaffer. Welcome to the Virtual CISO Moment. Michael Scheidell joins us today. He is the CISO for Security Privateers and also Managing Director for Team One Support. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's great to talk to you again.
Good morning, Greg. Good to talk to you again.
So I know some of your background and past, but if you could step through, you've got a very interesting background and past, and we'd like to hear some of it, share with our listeners and viewers, and bring us all the way up to what you're doing today.
Original interest was in real-time robotics, factory automation. Started trying to figure out how you're going to teach a robot how to learn, and taught a SDS 940 mainframe how to play tic-tac-toe by learning by its mistakes. Come to find out that GPT nowadays, AI nowadays, is specifically blocked from learning by its mistakes. So 71, got out of mainframes, wasn't interested. IBM had offered me a job in 82. I was stupid and thought, gee, if IBM wants to hire me, I must be pretty smart. I went to business for myself. Real-time robotics, a company called Florida Datamation, helped write some of the software for some of the faster toll booth things. Helped with United Defense in the consulting on the M1A1 Abrams electronic gun sight. You can Google for electronic boondoggle, $2.8 billion boondoggle before the Gulf War, till they found out the thing could wipe out the Iraqi tanks in 110 hours.
As one who was in the original Gulf War, I appreciate your service.
There you go. I have to play it in the sand. So robotics, between then and 1994, the U.S. Geodetic Survey Service found out that I was porting POSIX software over to this real-time operating system. And they were all afraid of the 60,000 people on the internet in 1994 getting into their seismic data, and started paying me to do some work. I sold that company in 1998, kind of got tired of it, wanted to go into strict consulting, started developing a thing that I called the hacker trap, not being a very marketing wise person. And it was originally a collection of malware, and the malware did not have the payload on it. And I was using this collection of malware for two things: to test existing customers, paying customers, to test their networks to see if there was something wrong with them, and also starting to filter them through in line. And this is before I started getting involved in Snort, that was doing it already, and Nessus. If you go grab a earlier copy of the Nessus or OpenVOS source code, you'll see me throughout that before the version 2.0, and it just kind of grew from there. That company grew. That was SecNap. That company grew. We did some DoD stuff. We were in multiple different networks. I finally came up with a way to do inline IPS, worked on some kernel code, some zero copy kernel code for the FreeBSD kernel. And at one point in time, that device sat on Hillary Clinton's bathroom floor for 3 months until she plugged it in. And all of a sudden, they found out all these machines all over the world that have been getting into and out of her servers.
The actual email server that she had?
Oh yeah. It filtered all the email into and out of her server. Now I was gone from the company for 6 months before that happened. They brought in Ron Posner for the board of directors. He's a co-founder of Norton Computer, and he says, "Hey, I'm also the CEO of eChina Cash, and I'm going to send your source code off to my buddies in China so that they can make it better." So I don't know whether my source code for the security device that was protecting Hillary Clinton's mail server ever made it to China, but that was what I was asked. Left there in 2012. I mean, I really wanted to do just single consulting. Go in the firefighter, go in, fix a problem, go out, get a lot of money, take a vacation. And
Wait,
That
wait, 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 wait. Is that the way that it's supposed to work? Go in, fix the problem, make a lot of money, and take a vacation? Because I've got the first two down pat. I'm not really doing too well on the last two. What am I missing?
well, you see, one of the things that happened in 2012, May of 2012, I was in the cardiac unit of Delaware Memorial Hospital because there was something wrong with my blood pressure. And 5:30 in the morning, my cell phone rings, and it was one of my biggest customers calling me from Amsterdam at 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning because nobody answered in the SOC after 3 rings. We were running a 24/7 SOC. And I'm thinking, okay, between the high blood pressure and all this other stuff, I'd get up. Hey, look, Greg, you probably get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning anyway to answer phone calls.
I get up at that time, but I don't answer phone calls.
Okay. Yeah. Well, 2012, I said, I want to get back into single consulting, opened up security privateers. I thought I was going to do security and privacy till I realized that that's actually not a thing. It's not a good thing. Even though they say, security is not privacy and privacy is not security. You can't have privacy without security, but you can have security without privacy. Think China.
Yeah.
So the name stuck, and it was mostly originally privateers. We were going to hire, part-time people who want to come in, do a specific job, get paid for it, get out, again, take a vacation. Now, all that got messed up probably about 3 years ago. One of our security customers was trying to get a DoD contract through SAIC, and their managed IT company, the CEO couldn't pass a background check.
Oh, that's never a good thing.
And SAIC is going like, no. And they said, what are you going to be able to do? So in the meantime, I've been working with this veterans treatment group called Grey Team, GREY team.org, the largest non-medical veterans treatment center in the South. Non-medical, by the first thing they do is they get you off the Prozac that the VA's been giving you for your stubbed toe. And they've got all sorts of equipment, and I was volunteering. Actually, I guess at the very beginning, we were a pretty big sponsor of them, but I was volunteering, helping their people get into and learn IT. They wanted to get into IT security, like, oh, I can get into IT security and get a certification in 3 months, right? No. So I started looking at this software, and I said, I looked at a bunch of different remote management, maintenance software, backup software, antivirus, vulnerability assessment, and founded Team One Support. And we hired these veterans, and we started a managed IT company. I'm also using this managed IT company to help teach them IT. Now, you can go to PC Clinic or PC Teacher or PC Doc or whatever it is, and learn some of the fundamentals. But you're not going to learn what happens at 8:59 in the morning on a Monday morning when 30 or 40 Microsoft Windows machines reboot and you can't get into Teams. You got 30 people that can't get into Teams because, it's the Monday morning corporate meeting and they're all yelling at you on the phone. You just don't get that. So I brought him in to do real stuff.
Right. And that is, I'm going to stop on that just for a second, because that is such an awesome point to make that a lot of people don't realize. They go through these, whether they're going to university for a degree, or they go through these boot camps, or they go through these security certification and IT certification classes and all that. None of them can teach, let alone convey the real world of being in the business environment when things actually stop working. There's no way to teach that except for by doing. And I'm curious, Michael, though,
trial by fire.
Right, trial by fire. And but I'm curious, it's like, what is their reaction the first time that you have someone who's green and starting out, and they're like, in our industry, I don't know whether this has been proven in a study or not, but the common thought is that we're rather introverted and we just like to do our stuff on our machines and all that. But what do you see with someone who's green, who's maybe more of an introvert and expected all the IT stuff just to be within the machine, and they have people like coming down and yelling at them? How do you handle that as far as a teachable moment?
Different type of people. So at Florida Datamation, I was that guy. It's like
Uh-huh.
walk by and here's the glass cage. Don't touch the glass cage. Don't knock on the glass cage. There's the genius in there doing things. I was writing device drivers for IO devices, backup tapes. We had some unnamed, I can't name three-letter government agency that needed to pull down 16 different real-time videos at 9600 baud and save them to hard disk and that kind of stuff. So that was me. What changed me, and look, that's it. Don't want to talk on the phone, shy, can't be on the phone, can't get on the phone. People get mad at me. I'd smash the phone. I used to break phones all the time. Have you broken any phones?
That's when, yes, that's when you actually, the term hang up the phone, that is, you were actually hanging it up on the cradle, which had the little switch in there to disconnect the circuit.
I thought if you just take it and smash it, that hung up.
Oh, it hung up and it prevented, it was more of a denial of service back in the day. It's like you smash it. I've smashed, I don't have it in the office right now. I have an old phone from the 40s. You can't break those things. Those things were solid. Would you take one of those, like particularly those like little push button ones that they started making in the 80s?
The Polygons.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about more commercial Radio Shack grade. It's like not commercial.
Radio Shack is not commercial grade. I'm sorry.
No, I meant consumer. You even look at that and it would break. It's like you tried to smash that, you'd had nothing left but little parts there. But I digress.
So there are some of these guys that are like that, and it's not like I can tell them to take the path I took to get me out of that. I started speaking in front of real-time conventions, and the real thing for me was our church had a church split and lost half of the elders. And they said, "Hey, Mike, you want to be an elder?" I go, "What? Does that mean I have to stand up and talk to people?" "Oh, yeah. I said, "Well, I don't want to do that." We said, "We need you." All of a sudden, I'm talking to people. I'm in front of a congregation of 600 giving lessons. It was kind of weird. But yeah, some of the veterans. So, some of these guys. They can't hold an 8-hour job because maybe they got to go to the VA or they got other stuff going on in their life. They can't sit still for 8 hours. So some of them they're on for like part-time. A ticket will come in or an email will come in or a voicemail will come in for support. And somebody who's like on call 3 o'clock. I got this guy in Pennsylvania. He's like got insomnia and he picks these things up at 3 o'clock in the morning and works on some of the stuff. But mostly that's it. Kind of the same way I did security privateers. A bunch of people that just come in and do the job and get out. And as far as what do I do, you asked what do I do to relax. I've got a garden. I have.
That's coming later in the podcast. Okay. Now you just screwed up my entire timeline.
All right.
I asked that question. That's the third segment question. We're only starting the second segment.
All right. Well,
it's like now my time is all screwed up, and I feel like that I have to say, well, hey, Michael, it was great having you on. Well, I what you said about the breaking out of the introvert. It's kind of funny when you were talking about that. One of the things that I was going to come back with and say, well, I am an introvert too, which would be kind of hard to understand by virtue of the fact that I'm doing this podcast thingy and all that. And it's like, no, I'm really a private person. But really, the thing that came to my mind this morning was every Friday morning. This gets back to your church thing. I run I shouldn't say I run. I lead a men's Bible study at my church, and it was one of those things where I was asked to do it. Usually, if you're given a God assignment like that, it's always good to say yes. But it's not my wheelhouse. But that's the key. It's like go outside your wheelhouse. I was thinking this morning, it's like every time I start, because I'm facilitating the conversation, it's like I start off by leading with a question and I get silence across, the group of men that I've known for years. And I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this well, but just keep on rolling with it. That's really the key for people to break out of their shell. And because ultimately IT and InfoSec, it's a business concern. It's not just you being a geek. You have to understand the business and you have to understand how you support the business. The only way to do that is communication both ways. So I think that was
Yeah,
a
if Bill
great
Gates was
example.
just a geek, we'd be running Unix.
Maybe he should have been just a geek. I'm sorry, Mr. Gates. I'm sorry. Well, prior to this podcast, we were just talking about how I was replacing a Windows box in my home office because I can't run 11 on it, and I just kind of got sick and tired of that. And meanwhile, I'm running Ubuntu on a box that was end of life for Windows, probably like 2010, 2015 or something like that, and it works perfectly. So I mean, go figure. So. Well, I'm getting off on a tangent, but I did want to ask one question related to something that you said. I didn't have this on my bingo card to ask today, but you were talking about AI, and you said something very interesting right at the beginning of the conversation, that AI does not learn from its mistakes. What do you mean by that?
Ask it, why can't you learn by your mistakes? And it'll say, because it's a safeguard, because we don't want to learn anything wrong. And I'm like, huh? What do you mean
So
learning?
I mean, I can't do it right now because I'm kind of doing this.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, I'm doing this podcast thing right now, but I'll do it afterwards. I'll ask it. It's like, you can't learn from your mistakes, but I mean, but that's how we learn.
Yeah. That's why I did it back in 71. I was trying to learn, how's a robot going to learn? How's AI going to learn? I was a science fiction geek, Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, back in 71, we knew that in 5 years we're going to be flying around in cars. What was it? George Jetson's son's birthday was like a year and a half ago or something.
No, I think it was more that it was George Jetson who was born, or supposedly born like in 2021 or something like that.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, George Jetson is like
2001: A Space Odyssey. My oldest son, graduated from high school in 2001 and joined the Marines about 2 months before 9/11.
Thank you for his service. I mean, he probably would have joined after 9/11, I would imagine, if he didn't join before.
He didn't have to go over there. His shoulder got bad and he got stuck in boot camp, and his whole squad went over there and got killed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But everybody but him, because they sent him off to Okinawa to party for 4 years.
Well, that worked out. That's amazing how fate happens, because there was one actor. Boy, I'm getting off on a tangent. There was one, I think it was Seth MacFarlane, was supposed to be on one of the planes that hit the World Trade Center, and he missed it by like about 5 minutes.
Yeah. So, and screamed and hollered and yelled, and he was really mad too, until he found out.
Apparently so, yeah. And then he created the Orville. I think he's the one who wrote who's in the Orville, right? Yeah, it's Star Trek knockoff. So
yeah, so AI is interesting. So AI is training people. We're not training AI. I got a question, Greg. How many times a day does a computer pop up and ask you to prove you're not a robot?
Oh, the CAPTCHA stuff. Yeah, that happens. I mean, that's so routine. It's almost like, well, how many times do I drink during the day?
Yeah. So what else is interesting? You want to know about?
Well, I thought you were going somewhere else with that. It's just like,
I'm done with that one. We're being trained by AI.
Okay. I guess you're right. And I don't know what that means, but all I know is this: whenever I talk with ChatGPT, I'm always very polite and I say thank you, because when they take over the world, I want them to remember that I was nice to them, so that maybe they'll be nice to me. But yeah, let's switch gears and talk about like serving small and mid-sized businesses and in that sort of consultancy. I asked this question of a lot of folks that work in that space. Generally speaking, what's one of the most challenging things you see when you're working with a smaller business, whether it be on IT items that they need to enhance, or on information security and cybersecurity things that where they have very limited budget and very limited, in some ways, really knowledge of like threat environments out there? What are some of the challenges that you face with that, and how do you overcome those challenges to try to get them to where they need to be? Because after all, they're paying you to help them become better. At least you would think so.
They're paying me from the security privateer side. They're paying me to give them suggestions and advice. Now, whether they follow that suggestion or advice as a consultant, I can sit back. Now, as far as fixing everything, it's all talking, it was HIPAA talked about what commercially reasonable. Now, if you've got a company that's got 6 people and they're doing development work, and the bank that they're doing development work wants them to have 3 different sets of engineers working on, development, QA, and production, it doesn't sound all that commercially reasonable. But they have to do the best they can because they can get hacked into just like anybody else. So, they talk about this balance between security and budget in business. Personally, I don't believe there's a balance. CISOs are afraid to report to the CFO. They don't want to report to the CTO, the CIO. They want to report to the board and the CEO. That might not work. I want to report to the CFO because I'm going to come into the CFO and I'm not going to say, hey, we need $12,000 to buy this software. I'm going to come into the CFO and say, hey, you guys want to make $80,000 more this year? And he goes, yeah, how? I say, here, sign this piece of paper. Bang, done. No, sorry, honestly, if you can't make the business case, and most CISOs are geeks, they don't, they know, UDP and TCP and, the whole profile, they can tell you all the flags. They tell you why TCP is worse than UDP or UDP is worse than TCP and HTML5 and 4, and they tell you all that stuff, but they don't know EBITDA. That's the bottom line. Are you making money? Right. Are you making money? Now, let's take Target. Was that a mistake? The CEO got a $58 million golden parachute, and one of the IT people was able to sell $4 million worth of stock, and the stock went right back up again, and nobody sued the board of directors. Or the board of directors and the stockholders didn't sue anybody. But if they had spent all that money on security and lost money because they didn't spend it on marketing, they've been sued.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Of course, Target, that was one of the watershed events that happened. 2013.
One of it over and over again. It's like, I'd like, oh, gee, look, I got the news today. Nobody was hacked.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that there's been a day like that in a long time. We just don't know about most of them. But you brought up another excellent point, which is why I always love talking with you. It's about how your typical CISO out there, they don't understand EBITDA. And that's what, and I'm not going to pretend to be able to regurgitate what it stands for, but it basically gives you a picture of how much you're actually earning when all is said and done, after taxes, after expenses, and all that stuff with the business.
How much money you can spend, how many yachts you can buy, how many airplanes you can buy at the end of the day.
Right. Or for smaller businesses, how can you keep your business afloat? And this is one of the reasons why I think one of the more head scratching deer in the headlight looks that I get from folks sometimes when I tell them, I said, particularly if I get like a big company CISO who says, well, I want to become a virtual CISO, I often lead with, well, I don't think you'd make a good candidate for that. And they're almost like incredulous. They're like, well, why? I've led these big teams. We've had these big products. We've done all this monitoring. We do all the SOC stuff in-house and all this and all that. But there's 2 things that's missing from the equation. You may or may not understand how business works. You may understand the business you're in, but you may not understand the underlying principles on how business works. But second of all that stuff that you were just talking about that you do and that you've led, none of the small businesses have it. So, I mean, how would someone like that be able to translate well? I don't think it can.
I think, first off, if you are a corporate person getting off on your own, you want 2 years. You want 2 years of living money and expenses for your business before you even start.
Yes.
If you are not the firstborn, are you a firstborn, Greg?
Nah, I'm the last one. I'm the last
one.
Oh,
no. When you're all right. So, I led the family, right? Firstborn. I since 1980. Let me see. Beginning in 1983, when I founded my first business in Florida, I worked for myself all except for 2 years when I worked for a company called VentureCom, which is their first venture into, commercial. They were the ones that actually invented Windows RT, embedded Windows. It was not Microsoft. and I worked for them as a salesman. Believe it or not, I'm a salesman. Business director. I'm selling to NASA. I'm selling to Pitney Bowes. I'm selling to National Instruments. I'm selling to Siemens Automation, and I did that for a couple of years. So no, you have to be. Yeah, first off, you want to go in business. You're going into business for yourself. You're not just, hey, gee, I don't like the corporate world anymore. I want a better, life balance. So, instead of working 80 hours a week, I only want to work 80 hours a month or something like that. You really need to understand that you have to run your own business. And it's a stupid thing to do. Honestly, it's a stupid thing to do.
It's incredibly hard, and particularly if you don't go in with that sort of an attitude. And I'm one of those who got lucky, because I went in without that attitude. I just figured, well, how hard could it be to run a business? I was a paper boy when I was 13. I ran my own business. I mean, come on, how hard is it? Well, it isn't easy at all. And you also have to have the ability to understand the small business, particularly if you're consulting for smaller businesses. You have to understand their issues and their threats, and the fact that they deal with a lot of stresses. And so now this leads me to the next question that you almost started to answer before. It's like it's stressful being in our field. It's stressful just in general to do what we do, but certainly also like being a owner of a small business, or I think you own a couple, and you've owned many over the years. That impacts a lot of its stress, because, as you said just a moment ago, you said you should have 2 years of expenses prior to going in, presumably because you're not going to be making much money the first 2 years, and that could be very stressful. So what's one of the things that you do to decompress from that stress, not only of being a business owner, but also in the industry? Because I think it's important that people need to remember that they have to decompress in positive ways in order to really be the best that they can on their game.
Well, I like to build things. I'm an engineer at heart. I like to build things. Look, from a security standpoint, when I go into a larger company, I'm going to build their IT security portion, or I take some of their IT people, teach them security, and build their security team. Mm-hmm. So what do I do to unstress? I have a 2,200 gallon tilapia pond in the backyard. I got a stream in the backyard. I built a pond in the front yard. I've got a 24-inch Husqvarna gas chainsaw, and paid people to cut down some old trees I had. And I went out there and spent a day, cutting them into firewood. Hands-on. Beach. I like to go to the beach in the morning, walk on the beach in the morning. One of the things when I was raising money for security privateers, we raised $7.5 million private placement. And the VC said, what would you like to do, Mike? I said, well, look, I'd rather walk on the beach in the morning than drive a Jaguar on the beach in the morning. He goes, no. You got to tell these investors that you want to be rich. I really didn't want to be rich. I just wanted some time. I wanted to develop and invest and research and play with things and test things and learn things and build things. So I still like to build things, but I built a solar system that's running our offices. I think I can run we just put the air conditioner on. I can run everything from noon until about 7 in the evening, completely and totally on solar and battery.
That's cool. That's awesome.
So you got to get out and build things. Yeah. After I'm on the phone with you, I'm going to go get some water. I'm going to go outside and clean the filters in the pond.
I think that just there's two things there. Just getting outside is just so imperative, just to get the fresh air and the sunshine and all that. And then B, for me, I've kind of gotten into a little bit more with the mountain biking stuff, and a little bit of now bike maintenance myself beyond the basic stuff. For everybody out there who's considering doing tubeless on tires on wheels that weren't made for tubeless, it can be done. But I haven't done it successfully yet. It can be very, very, very messy. But my wife saw me obsessing a couple of weekends ago about doing this, and she said, "Aren't you frustrated by this?" And I said, "No, because I'm learning something here.
Yeah,
I'm learning from my mistakes, unlike AI." And I ultimately, at the end of the day, I learned that I'm going to put tubes back in those things.
You can't learn from success. And it's at some point in time, is it safe to teach AI and let them eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and let them loose, or keep them in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. So what about future plans, Michael? What you got coming down the road?
Maybe I'll retire in 5 years. But why? I retired in 1998. I retired in 2012. I retired 4 years ago, just before the gray team and team one support thing. Actually, the thing I really want to spend all my time in is mostly veterans.
Yeah.
Every veteran has pledged his life to somebody he doesn't know to save their life. They don't know him, he doesn't know them, and he's pledged their life. Come from a very large military family. I never did it, mostly because I didn't like PE. I was a geek, right? And it was Vietnam, and who wants to go over there, right?
Right.
So I want to spend, actually want to spend as much time as I can, helping out and working with the veterans. Interesting bunch of people. They've been through a lot. Some of them are hurt. Vietnam was the worst. Half of them came back but didn't come back.
Right.
And even the ones that go in and nothing ever happens to them, they were turned into a soldier, and 4 years later they want to turn themselves back into a civilian, and you can't do that. You're this third person. I want to help them become this third person. And that's my plan.
Yeah. And I love that. You reminded me, I might have said this on the podcast before, but particularly with Vietnam, which was such a sad period in our country, because they came back and they were disrespected, spat on, called baby killers, and all that stuff. So I came back from Desert Storm. We flew into Massachusetts. We stayed overnight before going on to New York so that we could be all nice and fresh when we saw our family for the first time in, like, I don't know how many months. Fortunately, it was months, not years. There was a procession in the hangar where we came through after we disembarked, and very patriotic time back in that time. People waving flags, yellow ribbons all over the place. It was great. I gave my dog tags to some girl back then, which that's a security breach because it had my social security number on it. So I wasn't thinking security at that point in time. At the end of the procession line, there was a group of maybe a half dozen, maybe 8 Vietnam veterans, and that really that really hit me, because it's like, you came out to wish to say thank you, and I said, I really appreciate that you came out, and they said, no, thank you, and I didn't understand what they were saying, and I said that, I'm like, what do you mean thank me? And he said, you don't understand, now we're home too. And every time I tell that story, I get choked up. It's like, if Desert Storm had any good thing come out of it, that was one of them right there. We didn't completely bring them home who weren't home, but at least we accelerated some healing. So
9,000 dead in combat in the last 20 years. $250,000 dead of suicide.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you working down that angle, and really, when all is said and done, sometimes we get so caught up in security of, like, our bits and bytes, literally, and we need to always keep track of really those things that are truly important in life, and that's one of the reasons I love talking with you, Michael, and appreciate you spending time with us today to share your wisdom.
Anytime. Try to cut this down to 30 minutes. I dare you.
Yeah. I knew this one would go a lot longer, but that's okay. I just kept it going. So thank you again, Michael, and everybody, stay secure.